What is going on, everybody? Happy New Year. Welcome to the first episode of For the Love of Wrestling for 2024. I am, of course, your host, the Renegade of Wrestling, JJ Williams. Happy Tuesday. It is good to see all you guys back here on the channel to kick off the year right. I hope you enjoyed your holiday. I hope you had a fun and safe New Year's Eve. I hope you enjoyed your New Year's Day, whether you were watching the Rose Parade or the College Bowl games, where you joined us across the multiverse of media for our coverage of WWE Raw Day 1. But we're not here to talk about that today, so please try not to light up the chat room with comments about The Rock and his return. We'll be getting to that tomorrow, alongside our NXT New Year's Evil coverage. Today, we have to do what we would have done yesterday since we took the day off on Monday for New Year's Day. We've got to talk about Rampage and Smackdown. There was no Collision episode this week due to AEW World's End, so we've only got two programs we've got to discuss. Let's just try to get into it here, shall we? First thing first, we're going to do Smackdown because that was a best of show, but much like last week's Best of Raw, we are going to discuss it. We're going to comment on it. There were some things about it that I feel like we should probably address. Not that that's a bad thing, but, there were some special interviews and such to kind of give a reason to tune in and watch it. Starting to see some people come into the comments section. Daniel is here. What's going on? What a Saturday and Friday night. Yeah, absolutely. So SmackDown kicked off with L.A. Knight. Yeah. And he just kind of gave us a little hype video, trying to get us all set up for what was going to come on the best of SmackDown. We then threw to Jackie Redmond and Corey Graves, and they welcomed us to the show, and we jumped right into things by talking about the return this year of John Cena. Of course, John Cena came back, had a nice little, we'll say about a 3 to 4 month run during the actors' strike of 2023. Actors being on strike meant he didn't have to report to sets, meant that John was available to come back home. And the first match we go to is John Cena versus Solo Sikoa from Crown Jewel. Of course, as we all remember, Solo Sikoa won that match. So it was very much a passing of the guard as John Cena was kind of putting over the young talent that he knew he wasn't going to be there to kind of do more with. John Cena always had good matches with young talent. You thought that go back and you think about his open challenges for the United States Championship there for a while and how Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and all these NXT guys kind of got a shot on the main roster against Cena. And while Solo was already a main roster talent, Cena wasn't really going to get to have that opportunity again. And his history with the bloodline goes all the way back to Solo's daddy, Rikishi. Rikishi, Umaga, 3-minute warning, Rosie, now Roman, the Usos, Solo. He's had history with all of them. The Rock. So that was kind of a nice way to cap off Cena's run, as that was the last match he had. We then had a video. We won't call it a cameo, but it was definitely pre-recorded. It wasn't like some of the via satellite interviews that they did on the Raw version and that they would do on the SmackDown version as well. But just a pre-recorded video from Cena, who basically says he doesn't know how much longer he really has in the WWE. Between his full-time movie schedule, between his age, He doesn't know how much longer he can do it. But then he raises a glass to the WWE Universe and gives us a toast for the response and the respect that we always show him when he does have the opportunity to come back home. We then had a little backstage promo video from Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits, and they kind of talk about what's ahead for them in 2024 and how their 2024 is going to be almighty. Very shticky, very gimmicky, but fun nonetheless. Love the Street Profits. Love Lashley. So anytime I get him on my screen is a good thing. Jeff is here, says he missed both shows, so he's curious what happened. Thanks for riding with me, boss man. Daniel says, I wonder what will happen this Wednesday through Saturday for Dynamite, SmackDown, Rampage, and Collision. Yeah. If last night's Day 1 Raw is any indication, this week's going to be huge across all brands. But again, we'll get to that later. We then saw Kevin Owens challenge Roman Reigns from the Royal Rumble. We saw Sami Zayn turning on the Bloodline and KO reforming his team, coming back together with Sami, all to lead us into our next match, which was the night one main event of WrestleMania 39. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus the Usos from WrestleMania. And we got to see a good chunk of that match again. And once again, I was just a wreck watching that. You know, we discussed it when it happened at Mania 39. We discussed it the open mic night that followed. We discussed it a few times over 2023 and again during our New Year's Eve special. Jeff and I both go back many, many years with Kevin Steen and El Generico, who of course are now Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. All the way back to Pro Wrestling Guerrilla out here in LA, California. They then moved to Burbank and Reseda. But seeing guys that we saw scratch and claw to make a name on the independent circuit achieve tag team gold together at the Super Bowl of Pro Wrestling. Like, that's just one of those things that you can never touch as a highlight as a fan. You know, when you see somebody start from scratch, it would be as if you go to college with a pro with somebody who becomes a pro sports athlete, and you get to see them at your college basketball games or your college baseball games or your college football games, plying and learning their craft and their trade. Then you see them get drafted to a pro sports team, and then you see them win a World Series, a Stanley Cup, a Super Bowl, an NBA championship, and you knew them when they were still in college, working and struggling and hustling and plying their craft because this is what they wanted to be. They didn't want to be a doctor or a lawyer, you know, a nurse or anything like that, a mechanic. They wanted to be a superstar. And you saw them grow from that collegiate athlete to champion. That's what Steen and Generico winning the titles at Mania was for Jeff and I. And to his point, NoDQ.com title change of the year, voted on by the fans. Kind of says everything. We then go to Kathy Kelly, who talks to Kevin Owens about what the match meant to him and Sami, who, of course, we can't get words from Sami. Sami's on Raw. And what's ahead for KO in 2024. And this is a nice little segment We then get an A-Town Down promo, and it starts off they're just kind of talking, and apparently Nick Aldis has asked them to give their New Year's resolutions, and they're being goofy and comical as they are. I love Austin Theory. I love Grayson Waller. I'm so glad they're a team because I have said since I first saw them both that they could be part of a stable or a faction together along with somebody like a Miz because they all have that same gimmick. However, Miz is a babyface now, so it doesn't really work. But just the fact that they're a team, it's like called it, booked it. And so they turned their segment into an impromptu virtual Grayson Waller effect. And they bring up the ticker at the bottom, and the normal, you know, goofy comments about how great Grayson Waller is start scrolling on the bottom. And then one comes from Fight Steen Fight. And Kevin Owens basically hijacks the Grayson Waller effect ticker and starts talking about what punchable faces they have and how easy it is to hit two of their faces instead of just one, and kind of ruffles the feathers of Theory and Waller there, and the segment ends. We then got highlights of The Rock's return to SmackDown from 2023. And of course, this happened, I want to say this was October. And The Rock was doing something for college football in Boulder, Colorado with Pat McAfee. SmackDown was in Denver that night. So Pat McAfee and The Rock went down to SmackDown, made a huge surprise, got in the face of Austin Theory with a very clippable moment that we use on occasion on Stat Boy Sports Bar. You're going to have to tune in later on this evening, see if it gets used again. But just what a moment that was for that Colorado crowd, soaking in the electricity. We then had a via satellite interview with Bianca Belair, who talks about becoming the longest reigning Raw Women's Champion in history, Io Sky's successful cash in on her at SummerSlam, wanting revenge on Io and Damage Control. And she talks about Love and WWE, Bianca and Montez, the brand new reality show that's going to be coming on Hulu beginning February 2nd, chronicling their lives going into Mania 39. So that's going to be fun to watch. Honestly, I think what I loved most about this segment is the fact that since it was via satellite, since it was B at her home, you actually got to see a little bit of the real Bianca Belair. She didn't have all her extensions in. She didn't have the long braided ponytail. They interviewed her with her natural hair, which I've always said, I know on the one hand I say, please don't turn her heel. She's the female John Cena. You're going to lose everything that she's built with the youth of America and the youth worldwide, with her being a positive role model, especially not just to women, but to the young African American women. But if you're going to turn her heel, let her go to her natural hair. Get rid of that long, extension filled braid, because her normal hair length, the curl and everything is just so sexy on her. It really is. So getting to see a more stripped backside of Bianca on WWE television, I thought was like the highlight for me as far as that goes, because it was the woman behind the character, not the character that they were really talking to. Just kind of breaking that wall. Jeff says A-Town Down Under were underrated gems this year. In theory, getting the business from The Rock was gold. Yeah, absolutely. So after the Bianca segment, we go to highlights from the women's War Games match and follow it up with comments from Damage Control. And this is Bayley basically saying, let's not talk about the bad from 2023 about how they lost the War Games match. Let's talk about the positives. Let's talk about how Io Sky became Money in the Bank and then cashed it in successfully to become women's champion. Let's talk about the return of Kairi Sane to WWE and her alignment with Damage Control. Let's discuss how Asuka chose on her own to align herself with us and how unstoppable Damage Control is going to be in WWE in 2024. And just really, really good from Bayley, the way she tried to turn the negative setup into a positive for her and her stable. And until she's booted, it's still her stable because Bayley's the one who put Damage Control together. We all see the writing on the wall. We all see the storytelling that Bayley's going to be excommunicado probably by Mania, if not shortly after Mania. But the way she flipped everything there was so good. We then had a solo of Corey Graves. Jackie had walked out. The lights had gotten a little bit dark in the studio. And Corey gives a nice little speech about Wyndham Rotundo, Bray Wyatt, the Fiend. And then we go to a nice little video tribute package about Bray's career. And they show Wyatt family footage. They show Bray Wyatt footage. They show the Fiend footage. They show Firefly Funhouse footage. They show images, not footage, but images of him, Bo, and his dad when him and Bo were tag champions in FCW. I don't remember if they showed any Husky Harris footage from when he was part of the Nexus, but they covered pretty much every other aspect of his career, going all the way back to FCW. Very touching tribute. If nothing else, make sure you go back to watch it for this, because I know a lot of people were rattled by the passing of Bray Wyatt this year. It definitely was a devastating moment for pro wrestling and the WWE community. And despite my stance, and I still stand firmly on the fact that he should not go into the WWE Hall of Fame this year just because he passed away. But despite my stance on that, it was a very nice, touching tribute to a fallen wrestler who died way too young. Then got a special look at the WWE Madison Square Garden house show from the day after Christmas and got to see a little bit of footage of all the superstars there and CM Punk coming out for his first WWE match in over 10 years. And again, man, I talked about this on open mic night the other night, and I discussed this last night briefly on day one Raw when Dominic Mysterio was in the ring and when CM Punk was brought up. But Dominic Mysterio and his growth in 2023, from being the kid that nobody thought deserved to be in the ring, and why did he not go through NXT first, and everything that kid has achieved in the last 365 days. Fighting his father at WrestleMania, becoming two-time NXT North American champion, being in the main event of Raw, NXT, and SmackDown all in the same week. And he ends his 2023 by getting the first one-on-one match with Randy Orton after his 18-month hiatus, and the first match with CM Punk after 10 years plus away from the company. The fact that WWE has enough confidence to put Dominic Mysterio in those situations with those people shows just how much Triple H, Nick Khan, and everybody else that is in charge of creative and the office value Dominic Mysterio. And as such, we maybe need to turn down our hatred just a little bit towards him. Still boo him in the arenas. He's a heel. We're supposed to boo him. But as far as our viral, visceral hatred towards him, I want to turn it down just a bit. We then had Nick Aldis discussing New Year's Revolution Smackdown, and Pretty Deadly come in asking for a tag team title shot, and they get denied. We then take a look at Logan Paul's 2023 and go to his match against Rey Mysterio from Crown Jewel for the United States Championship, where, of course, Logan Paul defeated the WWE Hall of Famer to become United States Champion. We then go to the heel turn a couple weeks later of Santos Escobar and this cool video package, kind of highlighting the dissension in the LWO and how Rey Mysterio brought in Carlito and chose Carlito over Santos. How Santos was supposed to be the leader of the LWO and rebrand it and bring it back in his image, and Rey kind of usurped the power from him, brought Carlito in, and then when it came down to it, chose Carlito over Santos, which sent Santos over the edge. And of course, now Rey Mysterio is out of action, had some more knee surgery, about the 352nd time on the same knee, waiting for him to come back, get his revenge. Hopefully, Rey will be ready in time for Mania. But we then go to an interview with Rey regarding Santos and the LWO and his Hall of Fame induction, and talking about Dominic and his growth in the company and Dragon Lee and Logan Paul, and just a really good segment with Rey Mysterio. And Rey Mysterio has always been one of those guys who really can't just say a bad word about somebody. So despite everything that's gone on in his 2023, he's still showing love to Dominic. He's still showing love to Santos, and what performers they are. And even Logan Paul, he's giving some credit to. We take a look back at the return of AJ Styles, the phenomenal one. And then Paul Heyman kind of just casually walks into the fray here, walks into the studio where Jackie and Corey are to discuss Roman Reigns. And they try to ask him a couple of questions, Is Roman concerned? Does Roman have somebody that he would like to face coming out the triple threat match that will be held on SmackDown New Year's Revolution, which, of course, we will be covering here across the multiverse of media. And Heyman, who usually is never at a loss for words, Heyman, who usually you can never get to just shut up. All he says when he's asked questions are, yes, yes, yes. And then he picks up his phone. And Corey's like, oh, this is where he does the call Roman Reigns bit. And instead, he says, call Jimmy Uso. And Jimmy Uso pops up on the Tron and answers a few questions about, life this year and the bloodline and the family dissension and what the holidays are like. Jimmy just kind of chats it up for a couple of moments. gives Jay's deuces ooses to outro. And we then go to the WrestleMania main event, Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns to the WWE Undisputed World Heavyweight Championship, Universal Championship. Of course, Cody unable to finish his story. Such a moment. I know Jeff was very disappointed at WrestleMania, but not as disappointed as a lot of other people were. What did you guys think of SmackDown? Those of you guys that watched it. You know, obviously there was a lot to talk about. I've been going for almost 30 minutes just about a highlight show. So it kind of makes me scratch my head when some of my contemporaries choose not to cover a highlight show. But I digress. That's their decision, their networks, their choices. Before we get into Rampage, I am going to take a commercial. It's going to be a little bit longer than normal because we had a hell of a commercial put together by the He-Man, James Hebert, for Open Mic Night. And I think you guys need to see this one. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Jeff Meacham Network Records presents a very special offer, only available for a limited time. Noah, That's What I Call Music. Featuring such timeless classics as Barbie Girl.
I'm a Barbie girl in the Barbie world. Life in plastic. It's fantastic.
I See the Light.
And at last I see the light. And it's like the fog is lifted.
Radio
Oh,
Gaga.
this works. I don't know this song at all. Invaded by Mars. Fuck is this old school shit? You made them laugh. You made them cry. You made us feel like we could fly.
What Makes You
You
Beautiful.
light up my world like nobody else. Oh, fuck that. Without you flip, you're overwhelmed. I can't do this.
DuckTales.
DuckTales. Woo. Every day they're out there making DuckTales. Woo. Tales of daring, do bad, and good luck tales.
Sexy Boy.
I send chills up and down your spine. I'm just a sexy boy.
Sexy boy.
I'm not your boy toy.
Boy,
Sexy
Kingdom.
boy. Curtain lights go up. I'm home. Whoa. My father said when I was younger.
I Won't Say I'm in Love.
History. Been there, done that. Who you think you're kidding? He's the earth in heaven. Do you try to keep it hidden? Honey, we can see right from no.
Dusty Rhodes' theme.
American dream.
Clink, 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 clink.
He's just a common man.
The Emperor's New Groove.
There are despots and dictators, political manipulators. There are blue bloods with the intellect of fleece. There are kings and petty tyrants who are so lacking in refinements. They'd be better suited swinging from the trees.
Vince McMahon's Stand Back.
Incredible. I got some advice. I finally have to say, stand back. Stand back.
Stand back.
Fucking hell. They never understood the kind of man I am. I do my own thinking. Got a lot of big plans. Stand back.
Stand back.
We Don't Talk About
We
Bruno.
don't talk about Bruno. No, no, no. We don't talk about Bruno. But it was wedding day. And there wasn't a cloud in the sky. No clouds allowed in the sky. Bruno with a G.
The Enchanted Tiki
Welcome to a
Room.
tropical hideaway. You lucky people, you. If you weren't in the show starting right away, we begin the audience to all the people in the tiki room. In the tiki room. How
Friend
is
Like
your
Me.
order now? Ammunition in your camp. You got to punch Shazam, Yahoo, and how. See, all you gotta do is rub that lip, and I'll say, Mr. Aladdin, sir, what will your pleasure be?
And much, much more.
One way or another, together's where we both belong. If we listen to each other's hearts, we'll find we'll never too far apart. And maybe love is the reason why, for the first time ever, we're seeing it eye to eye.
Pre-order now and get CM Punk's official theme song as a bonus. What do you see?
The cult of personality.
Interesting. How does that make
I
you feel?
know your anger. I know your dreams. I've been everything you wanna be. Oh, I'm the cult of personality.
Noah, that's what I call music. This is a parody and not available in actual retail stores. Please do not go looking for this in any retail stores near your area.
And there we have it. So that is why we had to do a little bit of a longer commercial today. That was just so good that James put together for our New Year's Eve open mic night. And yes, while you may not be able to find it in stores, it will be a legitimate thing over time. We are gathering the clips. We will be burning the CDs. Information as to how to get a hold of them will be available sooner rather than later. Just as at the time, I was just surprised Cody didn't win after all the build. Much more disappointed as the year wore on and Roman's reign got so stale. Agreed. Commercial demonstrates why Noah Foster is the MVP of the Jeff Meacham Network and the multiverse of media. Absolutely. In the words of Vince McMahon, that's just good shit, pal. So, we now transition to Rampage. Of course, hour-long, filmed during Dynamite. Show opened with Jericho, and Jericho comes out talking about what occurred on Dynamite. Sammy Guevara turning on the Don Callis family. Jericho coming out to save him. Steen and Darby coming out to save them. Then he calls Sammy Guevara out, says that they've got some stuff that they need to hash out. Sammy talks about how hard it has been being in Jericho's shadow. You know, you think about any accolade there is in the professional wrestling business, and pretty much Jericho has done it. With a couple of exceptions. You know, Jericho never won the Royal Rumble, was never king of the ring. But he's an 8-time world champion, intercontinental champion, European champion, you know, tag team champion. Huge matches, amazing opponents, storied history, WCW, ECW, WWF, AEW, Ring of Honor champion. So all these things, you know, just makes it hard for Sammy to be in his shadow. And he apologizes for his actions prior to his departure. Jericho then apologizes to Sammy for being a little bit too controlling. And he always saw the potential within Sammy. He then asks if they're willing to reform the Sex Gods. And Sammy agrees, and the two embrace in the ring. Statboy asks Jericho for Hall of Fame. Not yet. Definitely won't be until his AEW contract is over. Jericho has said and been very vocal about WWE here recently, and especially since he joined AEW. It's going to take him leaving the company and those fires to go out a little bit before he goes to the Hall of Fame, but I definitely do see him as a WWE Hall of Famer at some point. Maybe if Jericho is out of AEW the next time they do a Mania in Canada, then I could definitely see that. Jericho is only one of two, I think, to be Intercontinental Champion in both WWE and New Japan. Interesting statistic. We then had Renee Paquette backstage with Daniel Garcia and Daddy Magic, and they talk a little bit about the House of Black trying to walk all over people like them. You know, I understand Billy Gunn was put in, Mike, since you want to argue with me in the comments. Billy Gunn also didn't talk as much shit about WWE as Chris Jericho did. And Billy Gunn wasn't put in as a solo. He was put in as part of D-Generation X. Different. We then had Ruby Soho taking on Marina Shafir. And with everything that's been going on with Ruby as of late, I half expected her to lose and Marina Shafir to get a victory here. However, there was a distraction from Harley Cameron, who's been running with Saraya as of late, and it allowed Ruby to roll Marina up, get a pinfall for the victory. We then had a promo from the Don Callis family, Big Bill and Ricky Starks, and they're basically just running through their match for World's End the following day, which of course was Saturday. You can go back in the archives on any of the channels here across the multiverse and check it out. So we all know what happened there, but just each member kind of giving their 2 cents on the opponents and what they're going to do to them at World's End. We then go backstage and we find Willow Nightingale and Chris Statlander. And Willow mentions to Chris, she's talking about how much she respects Chris. But both women are from Long Island, New York. And she mentions how much she would love to share the ring with her at World's End. And I'm kind of sensing that they're going to set up like a tag match here, but then here comes Stokely Hathaway. The proverbial shit stirrer that he is. And he's like, yeah, share the ring with each other. That's a great idea. Why don't we have a one-on-one match? And Chris goes ahead and she agrees. Willow agrees. They shake hands. They're going to do it out of respect. Willow versus Stat at World's End. And again, you can see our coverage of that. See how that happened. We then had Matt Seidel versus Wheeler Yuta, a pure championship for the Ring of Honor pure title. Yuta was able to retain his title here in a very decent match. Post-match, Danhausen comes out, announces himself as a Ring of Honor legend, which I don't know if Danhausen actually did compete in Ring of Honor, but the promo was hilarious nonetheless. Yuta begins to attack him, which of course draws Hook out. Hook and Yuta had a match on the 0 hour of World's End. Already was announced prior to this, but just kind of fueling the fire before getting to that match. We had an MJF and Samoa Joe promo video kind of hyping their history with each other, going back to Arthur Ashe Stadium, and then everything leading towards their match the following day at World's End. Of course, we now know new AEW World Champion Samoa Joe. Congratulations. Main event was Top Flight and Action Andretti versus Orange Cassidy and Roppongi Vice in a trios contest. And this was just a fun, fast-paced match that saw Top Flight and Action Andretti actually get the W here. Again, with everything that Orange Cassidy has done as of late with the International Championship, I was a little bit surprised to see Orange Cassidy, Rocky Romero, and Chuck Taylor end up picking up the L here. Very big win for Top Flight and Action Andretti. I definitely see them being positioned for a good run as the Trios champions. They're a hell of a trio, hell of a team, very fun to watch. As much as I enjoy the Acclaimed, they haven't really been heavily featured on TV lately. I think the stank on them is starting to wear. I think Tony Khan needs to move the titles here sooner rather than later, and it's kind of looking like Top Flight's going to be the team to do it. What did you think about Rampage? Do you think Top Flight will be the team to dethrone the Acclaimed? Let me know. We're going to take one more little commercial break. This one is a really brief one, just about 30 seconds. Get your screenshotters ready. Going to show you the Friends of the Jeff Meacham Network, Multiverse of Media, and where you can find and follow us all, whether it's Facebook, Twix, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, YouTube, you name it, you can find us on the platform. And that, of course, are the Friends of the Multiverse of Media, where you can find and follow us all. Whew. You know what? I just sent a message to somebody. While I wait for a response to that, I'm going to run one more quick trailer, just 40 seconds. All the upcoming open mic night specials that'll be occurring here over the year. We will be right back from that. We are back, and we have Jeff Meacham here to help out with the shills today. I mainly wanted to bring him in because, well, I don't have all the graphics for stuff. And we lost Jeff Meacham. Awesome. It's one of those days, I guess, over on his side of things. So now that I'm at a loss because I lost the person that I wanted to help me try to shill this stuff, make sure you tune in later on this afternoon, evening to Stat Boy Sports Bar. I believe this week will be featuring Dory Lou. We have rebranded it. It is gone back to the original name of Stat Boy Sports Bar just to kind of take a little bit of stress off of the shoulders of Dory Lou. Make her feel like when she has work or something that she can't make the show for, that she's not letting us down. However, she is still very much a part of the show and the team and will be there when she can be there. Stat Boy Sports Bar today, 3 o'clock Pacific, 6 o'clock Eastern. I know there's a lot of stuff in the sports world for Stat Boy to talk about, especially with all the bowl games that occurred over the last couple of weeks.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm just grateful to be able to help him out. There's a lot to cover. College ball. There's the official merger of the XFL and the USFL. Excuse me, USWL. Jesus Christ, oh mind me. So yeah, there's gonna be lots to cover, and then we're gonna bleed right into the next thing tonight. So it's gonna be another busy afternoon here on the network.
Oh yeah, and then immediately after that, we've got NXT New Year's Evil. Another watch along this week. Noah and I going to be calling the action for that. So much good stuff in store there. 2 title matches, a grudge match, a trios match, a ranch hand or servant for a day match. All kinds of cool stuff coming up about there.
Definitely feel for your NXT having to follow day one as good as it was.
Well, but you know what? Shawn Michaels arguably is right up there for Booker of the Year for 2023. So I know he's going to be able to deliver. The one match I'm most concerned about is the trios action, because the No Quarter Catch crew have lost Charlie Dempsey to Japan for this week.
That's true.
So we're not going to be able to have him in there. They're going to have to rely on, I can't remember the kid's name to save my life, but he was part of the breakout tournament.
Right.
He was part of the No Quarter Catch crew to kind of fill in there. And with that weak link in the armor, I'm not sure how they're going to be able to overcome the LWO. We did find out on the Twix yesterday via Dragon Lee's Twitter that he is not going to be able to compete tonight.
Oh,
So
no.
I don't know who's going to be on the LWO side of things. Definitely some heavy speculation, with Ray being out, with Dragon Lee not being able to do it. The obvious choice would be Carlito.
True.
However, we also do know, thanks to Tony Khan and the AEW media scrum after World's End, that when Andrade El Idolo's contract is up, could Andrade be the third man for the LWO tonight at NXT New Year's Eve?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those. If any competent wrestling website or media outlet would actually award Booker of the Year, unlike the person that actually does award that award, Shawn Michaels will win hands down. But it is what it is, and I think Andrade being on the first NXT of the new year, having to follow day one, as awesome as it was, would be a hell of a boost.
Exactly, and to counter that theory, Zelina Vega put out a tweet about "I have a secret." Zelina Vega, of course, is part of the LWO now.
Yes, that's true.
So I'm just saying, it's a magic 8-ball situation, very much like the Rock thing yesterday. Once that image got out that he was at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, everybody was like, "Oh shit, is he going to be the guy? Oh shit, is he going to be the guy?" And he was the guy. And again, we'll get more in depth into that tomorrow when I do my Raw recap. But
Right.
with Andrade's contract being up in AEW, with the tweets, with there being that gap on the LWO side of things, like Andrade El Idolo wouldn't be a bad call.
And Andrade being Zelina's former client, it all makes sense to me, brother.
What do you guys in the chat room think? Will Andrade El Idolo be the third man on Team LWO tonight in the trios match?
Third man, world order. I like that.
And then Ariana Grace, Roxanne Perez. Is Roxanne going to descend more into the darkness than she already has as of late? Oba Femi and Riley Osborne for the finals of the breakout tournament for the men. Reg Holland's going to be talking first time since the incident that occurred with Ilya Dragunov.
Oh.
And then we've still got all of this stuff to go. For the love of everything that is safe and sane in our world, Jeff.
No, brother. We've been ha-ha about Lisa gonna die. I think it's gonna happen. I legitimately think it's gonna friggin' happen.
Wednesday, of course, the Greg Cherry Show. Beginning Wednesday night, Wrestle Kingdom coverage across the multiverse with Noah taking the Joey Styles reigns and doing a solo call, I believe.
Yeah, I think so too.
Wednesday night into Thursday. Meech's musings on Thursday. Smackdown New Year's Revolution coverage on Friday. Open mic night first one of 2024 back in its normal time slots on Saturday. And then we rest. And then we
Yes.
get a break as we begin to go into the relaunch, the re-up, the reboot, the resurgence of total nonstop action wrestling and Hard to
Yes.
Kill weekend.
It's you and I talked a lot last year, more so the year before, about just kind of keep up in the content, up in the output, and now we have, and it's like, yeah, we're doing great. The energy levels are regerts, but but it's worth it, brother. It's worth it.
Yeah, it's a small price to pay for the way we've been succeeding, growing, and thriving.
Yes, absolutely.
We've built a hell of a team. We've begun to build a hell of a community. I mean, we had Arlene and Emmanuel Dominguez pop in post Raw last night as they were live at the Pachanga Arena in San Diego, California, and they were able to give their thoughts on the show from a live fan perspective. And this is something that we are throwing out to the fans of the multiverse going forward. If you are at a pay-per-view, PLE, or a special show that we are covering, we are asking for fan pop-ins to kind of give that on-site correspondent feel to the production.
Yes.
So let us know. Are you going to be at New Year's Evil tonight from the Performance Center? Are you going to be at New Year's Revolution? We've got Dattila going to be at Hard to Kill. Is somebody else in our multiverse fandom going to be at Hard to Kill? What about the Royal Rumble? Do we have anybody in Australia that's going to be at the Elimination Chamber? Are you going to be at WrestleMania? Backlash in France?
Tokyo Dome.
The Tokyo Dome. Are you going to be at the Brawl in Berlin? SummerSlam? Talk to us. Because if you're going to be there, we're welcome to bring you on the show, post-show, and maybe even pre-show if we've got a long enough pre-show.
Yeah.
Kind of give what's the vibe going into things. Show hasn't kicked up yet, but how full is it? What's the energy level like? And then come back in. What was the experience like being there? We want to grow our audience by having more home audience participation.
Let us talk to you.
Yeah.
Shit.
That's going to just about wrap up the shills. Make sure that you guys tune in tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad channel as I do my coverage of Raw and NXT New Year's Evil. And until then, I am the Renegade of Wrestling, JJ Williams. Thank you very much, Jeff, for popping in for the shills. And I will see you guys tomorrow.
The Jeff Meacham Network's Multiverse of Media. For over 15 years, the recognized symbol of excellence and the standard bearer in coverage of sports and entertainment.
Thank you, JJ. Appreciate you.